Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Joe Knows the 2021 NFL Draft Class. And today we're going to be covering your Baltimore Ravens, which I'm very excited about. But before we get to our juicy content, let me go through the bells and whistles and say where you can find the show. First of all, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, and Facebook, where we have two Facebook pages. Toilets to Titles, of course, and the other one is When a Family Breaks. Please do us a big favor, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us out a lot. Trying to drive up our metrics there. That would really help us greatly. And over on Apple Podcast, please, if you're viewing us there, give us an Apple Podcast review. I should say positive review, a 5-star review. Even if you're not reviewing it even if you're not viewing this on Apple, just go ahead on over there, scoot on over there, and give us a 5-star review. Anyway, it would be greatly appreciated. And then you can go to patreon.com/toilets to titles. That would be greatly appreciated to find out how you can further support the show. So on to the Baltimore Ravens. Let me tell you, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the Baltimore Ravens is physicality. I think this is a team who we all know, if you're NFL fans, this is a team whose identity is physicality. And honestly, if I hadn't been such a huge fan of my NFL team for so long, or if they didn't exist, the Baltimore Ravens very well might be the team that I support, because I love physical football. And that's what they've always brought on the offensive side of the ball, especially the defensive side of the ball, but they bring it every which way they can. They've always been physical type of football that I absolutely love. So I'm going to look forward to talking about this team. I even think about the Baltimore Ravens, and you know what I want to do when I just think about that team? I want to just go to a football field, a practice field, put a football in someone's arms and just tackle the crap out of them, to be honest with you. Play some AC/DC in the background, have a lot of fun doing it. Just pound my opponent to the ground, and they look up and they say, "Please, sir, no more pounding." That's when you say, "Oh, you want more pounding?" And you continue to pound. That's right. That's what the Baltimore Ravens remind me of, and I absolutely love that. So we are going to have a great time reviewing their picks. Once again, Baltimore, one of the most competent organizations in the NFL over the past 25 years, always in the thick of things. If they're not in the playoffs, if they have that 1 year, like out of every 5 years, where they take a step back, they come back with a screaming vengeance the following year. They're always in the thick of things, and you can never take that team for granted. And they always do very, very, very well in their draft classes. They always restock, and that's why they're always strong and ready to go. This year, I love this. Very similar to the Miami Dolphins. Baltimore came into the 2021 draft and took care of business early on. No fooling around. They weren't fooling around with those chintzy 6th and 7th round picks. No siree. No. They had a total of 8 picks. They had 2 first-round picks, 2 third-round picks, 1 fourth-round pick, and 3 fifth-round picks. So, like I said, down here at the Blue Bar, only shopping in the high-end stores. They weren't leaving with any junk. No siree. They know how to shop with class. And we're going to move on over here to their first pick, Rashad Bateman. I love you, Baltimore Ravens. Great job. This is the 2nd year in a row where I nailed their pick for them. I think it was pretty obvious. I think a lot of people saw this pick coming for them. Rashad Bateman, given their needs at wide receiver. Last year I picked Patrick Queen. I wish I could say it was a genius, but everyone was pretty much picking that for them, as long as he fell, which he probably was to them. Patrick Queen was a perfect linebacker pick for them in the 1st round last year. Perfect fit. I know the Ravens fans love him. Ravens fans, you're going to love Rashad Bateman too. Why? Because the guy has the potential to be a legitimate #1 wide receiver. He was one of the, if not the, then maybe probably the 2nd most refined route runner in the draft. You can deploy him all over the field, at the #1, across the field, in the slot, whatever you want to do, he can do it. And I think he's going to wind up being, if not this year, it's his rookie year, maybe 2-3 years down the road. I think he's going to develop fairly quickly, very quickly, into being your legitimate #1 wide receiver, which obviously helps you out a lot, because I believe in Hollywood Brown. I just don't believe that he is. I never believed that he would be a true #1, but I think he could be a darn good #2 or a slot guy. The guy has a lot of talent, but he needs help. Kind of like Darius Slayton with the Giants, to be honest with you. This is a guy who has a lot of potential. He had a very good rookie year, but once opposing teams were putting their #1 cornerback on him, he was getting, he didn't have the same year last year that he had his rookie year. Because I do think there's a ceiling. It's a good ceiling. It's a high ceiling. The same thing with Hollywood Brown. There's a definitive ceiling. And if you can get that #1 wide receiver, it's going to make him better. The acquisition of Sammy Watkins this offseason is going to help. I'm not the biggest Watkins fan. I think everyone knows that he's not a true #1 like he was predicted to be when he was first drafted. But the guy can still play, and he's got value, and he's better than what you had. So your wide receiving core going into 2021 is, I think, going to be significantly better. It's going to help out Lamar Jackson, who I absolutely love. I think this guy got some heat last year for that he didn't deserve. People saying that he was solved. No, I think after being in the league for a few years and realizing that the Baltimore Ravens don't really have any receivers, they've got great tight ends, they've got a good running game, and they've got a quarterback who can pass and run, that there are things that you can focus on. Now that you're getting some real wide receivers there, it's going to open up your offense a lot more. It's going to make Lamar Jackson a lot deadlier, and I think it's going to be having better wide receivers is going to improve his accuracy. It's going to make him look better. He's going to play better. I think his statistics, including for fantasy, are just going to go up significantly in 2021, actually, but especially 2022 when Bateman gets a little experience under his belt. But I love this guy, absolutely loved him. For me, it was just a matter of whether or not he was going to fall to you at the 27th pick in the first round. He did. You got him. It was the right pick for you guys. I absolutely loved him. Moving on. So you had another first-round pick. I believe this is the one you got, I believe, from the Chiefs for Orlando Brown. Very well done, because you gave up a very talented tackle, but you got a very good premier prospect at the edge, and Jason Owe. And I know him as just Jason Owe. Only recently, or I should say like draft night, did I see that he's using his real name, which I believe is pronounced Odafe. Hope I didn't slaughter that, but I believe that's what it is. This guy's awesome. Now, people look at the numbers from last year. He did play. He did not sit out. He played. He had a very good year at Penn State, except he didn't have any sacks. And I know people, that's when it comes to an edge rusher, that's what everyone's looking for. That's, same thing with the quarterback. You're looking for touchdowns. With a wide receiver, you're looking for number of receptions and, of course, touchdowns. And edge rushers, premier ones, you're really looking at sack numbers. I don't think I think he had 0 last year. But don't be fooled by that. I think that has more to do with Penn State's defensive scheme, how they run. And I think he's going into a great situation with Baltimore, who knows how to develop talent, especially defensive talent. They're going to develop this guy. This guy, he did play well in Penn State. Don't get me wrong. He is an athletic freak. At his pro day, Penn State, he blew the charts up. This guy's athleticism was off the charts. He basically blew everyone out of the water in many categories. So his athleticism cannot be denied. I think Baltimore is going to do a great job of developing this guy. And I don't know what his impact is necessarily going to be this year, his rookie year. Don't be surprised if by the second half of the year, you're hearing the name Owe consistently on the ESPN highlights. I wouldn't be surprised, but it might take a little more time for him to really reach his full potential. But his athleticism alone is phenomenal. I love this pick, especially at the 31st pick in the first round. You did great. So again, like I have down here in my blue notes, is athleticism. He plays the run well. I think he was limited by Penn's defensive scheme. They have a good defense, don't get me wrong, but not everyone's always necessarily fit in a college scheme. They've got so many players. Sometimes these schemes, these college teams, these programs, they just need you to play the way that they need you to play. When you go to Baltimore or an NFL team, they're going to use you differently, most likely. And I think that's what's going to happen here. And I'd say trust in Baltimore, trust in Harbaugh, and trust in Owe. I think this guy is a home run pick. Absolutely loved it. You did so great with their first round picks. And you always do. I'm always so impressed with Baltimore. Ben Cleveland. I like this guy a lot. This is a deep offensive line class. And Ben Cleveland was, I think, one of those steals in the third round where he's going to need some development in pass protection, I believe. He's a guard from Georgia. He was the 31st pick in the third round. He's going to need some development in pass protection, but this guy comes in instantly. If you want to run the ball, which we all know Baltimore loves to run the ball, especially usually with a 2 or 3 headed monster. I'm sure J.K. Dobbins is going to be leading the pack this year, but I think the number 2 and number 3 running backs will get their fair share like they always do. Don't be surprised if they're not run. Don't be surprised if they're running it behind Ben Cleveland, because this guy is one mean, nasty ass road grader. I absolutely loved him. Would have loved him in the third round for my team as well. Glad to see he went to Cleveland. This guy, like I have down here in my notes, when I was reviewing this class, I loved all the picks. I really do, but there were two in particular who just screamed Baltimore Raven to me. One of them was Ben Cleveland, just given this guy's tough. Fans, Ravens fans, Baltimore Ravens fans, you're going to like him. Trust me. This guy's tough. He's got Baltimore Raven written all over him. For the second player that I felt like, we'll get to him a little later, but I think you're going to like both of these guys. Moving on, we got Brandon Stephens, and I'm an honest guy, and I've been honest in my other videos when I say there's a player here when I was reviewing, the team's picks that I really wasn't familiar with. Brandon Stephens was that one, so I had to do some reading up on him just before I put this video together, and I was really impressed that this is one of those guys who's got traits that you kind of bank on, where you kind of roll the dice on in the third round, where it sounds like he could have been. It sounds like, I think to most people, he could have been a reach, and that's not what I'm saying. Because, like I said, I give a lot of leeway to teams when they take someone who they want, when they take someone that they want, when they want to. I think that's totally fine. And you just have to let the the proof play out. Let the players eventually hit the field and show what they can do, and we'll see who was right and who was wrong. So I don't say anything like this is right or this is wrong or was a reach or anything like that. That's not my opinion. I just wasn't familiar with him. But this is a guy who, like, when I was reading up on him, I'm like, damn, I think I see why they took this guy in the third round. The 41st pick in the third round. He was a supplemental pick, I believe, or I should say compensatory pick. I like it. I like his intangibles. The guy is 6 foot, 213 pounds. That's great size for a cornerback. He's a cornerback out of Southern Methodist. I like that a lot. That's good. He's got good height. He sounds like he's got good build. 213 pounds is nothing to laugh about. I'm sure this guy's like athletically really built. He's not some fat dude. He's big, strong, athletic. He led the Mustangs, the Southern Methodist Mustangs, the past 2 years in deflections. I don't think he had any interceptions, but that's okay. As long as the receiver's not catching the ball, you're leading your team in deflections. That's A-okay by me. And that was after transferring from Texas, where he was a 3-year running back. That's unusual. That's impressive. What that tells me is that this guy is athletic. And if a team's going to take pick someone like this who was originally a running back for 3 years and then 2 years as a cornerback at Southern Methodist, and if Baltimore believes in him, then I believe in him. Like I said, if Harbaugh believes in him, I believe in this guy. So I'm really interested to see how this plays out with Brandon Stephens, because, like I said, I give Baltimore a lot of credit for their picks, how they always build their team through the draft. They keep them strong, and if they're picking this guy, right now I'll go into the season believing in this guy. If there were some other teams that have a horrible history of picking players, then I would just move on from him or just not really think about him too much. But I'd say keep your eyes on Brandon Stephens. Really, really interesting. Moving on, Tylan Wallace, a wide receiver taken in a wide receiver deep draft class. And guys, this guy's you took him with the 26th pick in the 4th round. I think he could wind up being an ideal number 2 wide receiver. When he develops, he's going to need some seasoning. He is, like I have in my notes here, he's not a blazer, but he's not slow either. What he's known for is being able to catch the ball in traffic. He fights for it. He jumps at it, jumps for the ball, and he's very effective at succeeding. He's very effective at catching the ball in traffic. So this guy, I think, could wind up being a player, man. He could wind up being a good player who's banging around there in the middle, getting knocked around by a safety, or got a safety or a linebacker draped all over him, or maybe like a third cornerback. And if there's a struggle for the ball, if they're both going for the high point, Tylan Wallace might be your man. So I think you have a lot to look forward to this guy. And again, if this draft class weren't so deep, he probably would have been 3rd round pick, maybe back end of the 2nd round. I don't know, given the rest of the players. But if it weren't as deep of a class, maybe back end of the 2nd round, but more likely 3rd round. But I think you got a really good value in the 4th round here with the 26th pick. Shaun Wade, cornerback. He's a cornerback from Ohio State. The guy can also play safety. That's why I was doing air quotes around cornerback. Shaun Wade is an interesting case. This is a guy who's very high on the NCAA radar. That is for people who follow the NCAA players before they're drafted, even like a year before they start leading up to the draft, even if you're just reading up on these guys, just in articles, whatever. Shaun Wade was a known commodity for the past few years. And he actually took, and he was someone who was expected to probably be like, I'd say maybe like a year ago, year and a half ago, this is a guy who probably was expected to be, when he eventually came out, to be maybe a first or second round pick, very talented player. He did take a step back this year, his final year at Ohio State. But you know what? For the 5th round, I think it's awesome. I'm actually kind of surprised that he actually lasted to the 5th round. And I did see a lot of mock drafts that did have him falling that far. I was kind of surprised. I actually thought he'd actually be taken in the 3rd round, given that his college career overall was good. He didn't have a great year last year, but overall his college career was good, and he's got versatility. Important, especially in the 5th round, when you're not drafting guys who can clearly come on the field and eventually being a starting quarterback, or eventually being a starting safety, or eventually being a slot corner. But those are hard to find. Sometimes you get lucky, but here you have a guy in the 5th round who can bring you a lot of versatility, and we all love versatility in the secondary. It's necessary. Shaun Wade provides that for you. I like it a lot. Great value, guys. Dalen Hayes, edge from Notre Dame, is one of my favorite 3rd day picks of the draft. And you guys had a bunch of picks, very much like the New England Patriots. The Baltimore Ravens had a bunch of picks that I would have been very happy with if my team had drafted them as well. And you can go to Rashad Bateman, you can go to Owen, Ben Cleveland, and now I'm going and Dalen Hayes. Dalen Hayes was another one. This is a guy who I had my eye on for my team in the later rounds, say like 4th round, 5th round, great value. Absolutely loved it. This is a guy who was a leader, loved the leadership traits, leader over at Notre Dame. He's got nice athleticism. He might not wind up being an eventual starter, but I think he can be. I think he could be one of those quality starters who you roll out there. You don't have to worry about. You're not going to hear his name making it to the Pro Bowl, but this is a guy who I think could eventually develop into being a solid starter. If not, I think you got really nice backup player here. I love Dalen Hayes, really like him a lot. And like I said over here in my blue notes, he was one of my favorite later round picks. And I had my eye on him for my team, but they went a different route, and that was okay because I like their draft as well. And we'll get to my team in the future. And you also had over here your last pick. And this was the other pick that I was talking about, that when I reviewed their entire draft class and I saw Ben Mason's name taken with your last pick, the 40th pick in the 5th round, I said, dang, that's got Baltimore Raven. That guy's got Baltimore Raven written all over him, and I absolutely love the pick. The best fullback pick in the draft by far. I know people are saying, who cares about fullback? Nobody uses fullback anymore. Yeah, they actually are used, and the Baltimore Ravens will definitely use this guy, and that is why he is a great pick for you, because you are a running team. You're a power running team. You look to maul the opposing defense. You look to wear them down. I love that. I love that type of football. I love physicality. And Ben Mason does it. He's awesome. He's also going to give you a shot, short down yardage, or the end zone goal line rushes if you need it. You won't. You've got plenty of running backs, but if you want to, don't be afraid to give the ball to Ben Mason. I think Ben Mason, along with Ben Cleveland, is going to become a fan favorite in Baltimore. This guy is great. I think I assume he's going to be the immediate starter at fullback for Baltimore. He was drafted in the 5th round. That's not chump change. It's not the 7th round. It's not even the 6th round, which I don't necessarily sneeze at either, but it's not the 7th round. He's not an undrafted free agent. The 5th round, a 5th round pick, I think, is fairly valuable. They invested in him for a reason. I'm sure he's starting from day one, barring injury, and I think you're going to love him. This guy is going to be a road grader. That offensive line, I think, is gonna be, they're going to be fine. I know losing Orlando Brown was obviously a big hit. I think Baltimore knows what they're doing. They work around things until they work around a weakness in a unit until they can get it better patched up. I think they'll be fine, and they'll get better next year as well on the O-line. But I think Ben Cleveland helped you out a lot, and I think you're going to love Ben Mason. And him and Dobbins together, it's going to be fun to see, because they're going to be really physical. They're going to be steamrolling linebackers and safeties and maybe even defensive ends. Who knows? Maybe some defensive tackles. But you guys are going to love them. So that's our review of the Baltimore Ravens. I had to kind of rush it a little bit. It's late in the day on a Friday. Still have a lot to do on the personal side, but I loved it. I was really looking forward to this because, like I said, Baltimore always, I feel like they always hit it out of the park with their drafts. And before we go, I have to hit the, first of all, here are all the Twitter handles for all of my colleagues here at Toilets to Title, including mine as well, at Toilets to Titles. And also, just one last reminder where you can find our show. That's Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, and Facebook, where we have 2 Facebook pages. And that is Toilets to Title, as well as when a family breaks. And that's where, on that page, that's where we do a lot of buying and selling of some sports memorabilia. So check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Anyway, everyone, that's a wrap. Have a great night. Love you. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.